A few years ago, our family went to the UK. It was something of a spur-of-the-moment decision based in large by the availability of tickets to a show that we were going to see there. Mostly my daughter was going to see, but that's a whole nother story. Now, there are upsides and downsides to spontaneous decisions like this. One of the upsides is that they can often turn into wonderful and unexpected adventures. The downside, on the other hand, is that sometimes you miss out on things because you just didn't prepare. So one of the things we did while we were there, we went to the Tower of London. Tower of London was built in the 11th century and was expanded throughout history and played important roles at pivotal moments in English history. It was very impressive, at least the outside of it was, because we didn't go in. In hindsight, it was one of the things I wish we'd done. It would have meant purchasing a ticket, and we were a little bit gun-shy on buying things because we'd spent so much money, and there was just lack of planning, lack of forethought. So we ended up walking around the building, but didn't actually go in the building. And it was very cool, don't get me wrong, it was very cool. But going in would have been a more complete experience. So when you enter something, you experience it in a richer way. And that's what would have happened, I think, if we had entered into the Tower of London. Now, we enter into all sorts of things, not just buildings. We enter into the fun when we view what's going on, not from a distance, but enjoy it ourselves. We enter into the fray when we don't look at a struggle from a distance, but make it our own. I enter into your life when I become part of your life and you become part of mine. When you enter a church, you make it possible to become part of that community. So entering is like a way of speaking about participating, becoming part of something. And today's psalm is all about entering. So imagine this psalm. It was probably used as a liturgy thousands of years ago to concerning bringing the Ark of the Covenant back to its place in Jerusalem, in the temple in Jerusalem. So it's about God entering the holy temple. Now, some of us might think this is overly anthropomorphic. In other words, we're thinking about God in human terms. We can't really talk about God entering a place or leaving a place if God is everywhere all at the same time. But while that's certainly true, there is a value in letting our imaginations free and allowing ourselves to think of God coming and going, not so much because that's what God actually does, but because that's really how we perceive God sometimes. So we're going to use a little bit of imagination. We're not going to stay with the pure facts. We're going to let our minds kind of picture things. So, picture the Ark of the Covenant. It's like this big box, ornately made. It represents the presence of God. It's sitting outside of the temple. There's a hill you have to climb to get up to the temple, and it's sitting there, resting outside of the holy temple. Now, add to that picture in your mind, a crowd of people also surrounding the Ark of the Covenant outside the temple. And the crowd of people are looking up to where the temple is. They're looking up to where they are imagining themselves soon to go and where the Ark is soon to go. So they're all looking up there. And there's this big sort of just mass of people imagining what's about to happen. Now, when I was in the Holy Land a couple years ago, I saw this sign that was striking. They came as tourists, but left as pilgrims. So a tourist is someone who goes somewhere to see something. I'm sort of reducing things. But a pilgrim is someone who goes somewhere to enter into the history and enter into the spirituality embodied in the things and the places and the peoples they see when they get there. So this crowd gathered outside of the temple, they are not tourists. They're not just watching something from a distance. They are pilgrims. They are part of the action. They're part of what's going on. They all want to be part of this great story of God that's going to unfold shortly. So they're all there. There's a sense of anticipation. And suddenly, out of nowhere, a voice emerges from the crowd and asks, "Who shall ascend the hill of the Lord? And who shall stand in his holy place?" Then, almost immediately after, a second voice is heard, and it gives answer to the first voice. This voice says, "Who shall enter? Well, those with clean hands and pure hearts, those who do not lift up their souls to what is false, nor swear deceitfully." This may not be the answer everybody expected. I can imagine some thinking, well, no, I think the better answer is those who keep all the commandments of God. They're the ones, really, that should be ascending the hill, aren't they? Someone else might be imagining, well, those who are ritually pure and undefiled, they should be the ones that enter the hill, go up the hill. Someone else might even be thinking, well, those with money and power, obviously, because they get to do everything they want. They're the ones going up there, aren't they? How about the one who knows how to speak well and pleases everyone with their beautiful words? Someone with the right clothes on, or someone who follows the right tradition. These are all answers that might be expected, but they're not the answer that's given. Those who have clean hands, in other words, that's a way of speaking, those who do what is good. And those with pure hearts, those who feel and think what is good. So to enter, to be part of this great ritual, to go into the temple, one needs to be fundamentally oriented towards the good. One doesn't enter here if one is all about hate and hurt. And it's not so much even that those who are about hate and hurt aren't welcome. It's just this isn't a kind of place that's going to appeal to someone who's cruel. It's not going to be something that they're interested in. There are other places that people who are arrogant and unkind, there are other places that might interest them that they might be interested in going to, but this is simply not one of those places. This place is going to be attractive and appealing for those who are gentle, true, faithful. This is a place where truth resides and where kindness reigns. This is a place for those who seek God, who seek Yahweh. And you know what? St. Hilda's is such a place. This is that place. We too are a place where there's clean hands and pure hearts. But I can imagine somebody in the crowd thinking to themselves, but our hands are not clean and our hearts are not pure. I would answer that if we pursue God and are seeking God's way, even though we've only grasped the mustard seed of what God has for us, from God's perspective, we have clean hands and a pure heart. That's all it takes. It's not like we have to get our whole life sorted out. All we need to do is be oriented towards God and hold on to the little mustard seed of faith and fidelity. That is all it takes to have a pure heart and clean hands from God's perspective. So we enter in. There's this great procession that we participate in. The crowd in the Psalms also participates in it. This is All Saints' Day. Today is a day to remember that we are not just this generation. We are part of multi-generational, all the people who have gone before and all the people who will come after. So this is a great movement that all of time is participating in. We're all entering, going up the hill towards God. And no one who wishes to make this journey will fail to make the journey. Everybody who wishes to, I imagine in the crowd there's not a single person left behind. They're all there. So now we change our imagination. We're all standing in the temple now. But the ark is still down where we left it. All the people went up to the temple. And so now there's another voice that raises up and says, "Lift up your gates, lift up your heads, O gates, and be lifted up, you ancient doors. The King of glory will come in." And again, there's an antiphonal thing going on. There's people talking back and forth. And there's another voice that says, "Well, who is this King of glory? Who are you talking about?" And there's a third voice. Who is the King of glory? The Lord of hosts. He is the King of glory. So the crowd, us, all of us, have entered the temple of God. And it's no small thing for those in the temple to greet the coming King who's entering in. It's no small thing for us here at modest little St. Hilda's to greet the great King of the universe as he or she enters into our midst. This is what when Christians speak about worship, this is essentially what we're talking about. Is we've entered in, and the great King follows us, and enters in behind us. And now we're in the presence of the great King of the universe. We are gathered together. The great King is with us all, is in us all, especially those who are the least, especially those who feel like they don't really belong, especially those ones. So let us celebrate and be glad, because that's really what worship is about. We're going to celebrate shortly the Eucharist. The Eucharist is, I think it's Latin. Latin? Is it Greek? Yeah, it is Greek. So I should know that. But anyways, it means thanksgiving. So the whole rite is about thanksgiving. It's all part of this joyous moment of celebration, because we are all gathered together and the great King is gathered in our midst. So as we celebrate, let us all be joyful, and let us all feel the gratitude of knowing that this one will never forsake us, just like this one hasn't and will never forsake those who have gone before, and will never forsake those who are coming after us. And that is reason to celebrate and be glad indeed. Amen.